Welcome to the Grit Blueprint Podcast.
I'm your host, Stefanie Couch. This podcast is about branding, building, and business. It also highlights the grit that it takes to be successful in business and in life. Let's get started. Welcome to the show, John. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's rare that two people that love doors as much as us get on a podcast together. I'm not sure. Maybe this might be the first time ever.
It might be doors and music.
That's right. It's a weird combination that we have in common, which I think is why I like you so much from the get-go. But I'm excited to have you and talk a little bit about your background. You currently work at Paradigm, which is a software. I'll let you explain a little more in depth, but we've actually done some projects with customers that are implementing Paradigm, Ben and I, my husband, through our company. And we've gotten to know you and several of the other team members and really some innovative stuff that you guys are doing over there in a place that's very much needed in the industry. So I'm excited to get into the nitty gritty on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, tell me a little bit about you. Who is John Wheeler, the music man? I see your guitars behind you. And then the software salesman, the door guy. Who are you and how'd you get to where you are today?
Yeah, good question. So I guess a lot of it started back, always liked music. We'll get into that in a bit, but it all started, my dad worked for kind of a door company, those big accordion doors that go between like huge conference rooms in a hotel or like between the chapel and a basketball court, like a church and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I would watch him, prepare for presentations and do stuff like that. And, I'd try to earn extra money to buy, basketball cards or whatever else it was. And, so I would be putting together binders for him and presentations and printing stuff out and things. So the presentation part for sure started there. But really, if you're talking about the building industry, right out of high school, I got a job at a lumberyard. And like, that's where I learned how to speak builder, and where I learned that I really, really liked the smell of lumber and like you cut it up and it smells great. And the way that it looks and feels and it stacks up and everything, lines up and things, and then when you get to a lumberyard, this from your background, there's people that have been doing what you're about to start doing. They've been doing it for, 30, 40, 50 years for some of them. And so just soaking all of that up and like this knowledge that was so foreign to me. It was like it was another form of English that just came super natural to them. And it's funny, I got fired from there for not showing up, and we'll get into showing up later on.
Fired me one time too, so don't feel bad.
Yep. Yeah, that was a good, solid learning experience. I was out on my own and had bills to pay and things. And they told me they were going to fire me if I showed up late again, and then handed me a check the next time I did. So,
dang.
Yeah, good learning experience. And from there they started opening up a Lowe's right down the street from where I was living at the time, and I just stopped into the trailer and talked to Sean Parks, who was going to be the store manager there, and he goes, "I think we're going to stick you with your history and stuff. We're going to put you back in the door and window department." And I'm like, "I don't know anything about doors and windows." He was like, "Well, Meek sells them." And I'm like, "Yep, they do." And he goes, "That's good enough." And so Sean Parks took a chance on me.
Now,
yeah, that's all we need. And also started getting more serious with the band that I was with, like at the time. So that's when kind of the music thing starts to come in. But yeah, Sean Parks, I think he's up in Idaho now, but he took a chance on me. Just threw me back there. And it was just like the lumber thing. I got back, I didn't know anything about the ins and outs of doors and windows. And talking to people about their projects and like learning about the doors, talking to the reps for the different companies just blew my mind. It was so interesting to learn all that. So after a few years of that, selling projects, doing takeoffs, doing all that fun stuff, ABS approached me and said, "Hey, we would love to have you as a salesperson on our team." And there's a guy named Ray Fletcher. Later, I would find to know him as Old Man Ray. But, again, took a chance on me and said, we're going to hire you up. And I remember that was one of one of the only times I can remember fist pumping. I was so excited to get this like door job.
That's awesome.
And once I got there, I kind of felt like, this is really like my time to shine. I was always been determined to be the best. I'm upset when I'm wrong. I'm upset when I'm like second. And so I got thrown into a pool of, I don't know, 10 or so salespeople. And they're like, yeah, if you put in 20 orders a day, you're doing all right. I was like, I'm going to do like 50 orders a day. I remember the first time I did that, everybody like basically fell out of their chair.
I'm mad, like, damn it, now he's proved it can be done.
Yes, setting the bar, I think. And it's not to like brag or boast. I was just like so motivated to learn everything that I could, and I was excited about it, and like I just wanted to put in orders. I wanted to type, green screen, type in these SKUs and build a pre-hung unit and stuff. And I think that drive just I did everything. I ran a sales team. I did, built websites. I did marketing stuff, did huge presentations for some of our biggest customers. And I was always that guy that you'd bring in for like likability. Otherwise it's people just, monotone and talking whatever.
Yeah.
But just like with, the lumberyard and Lowe's, learning from the people that are around you. Again, there was 30 year vets that were on the team there, and they were willing to like tell you about things if you needed to know.
Yeah.
And learning, soaking up all of that, and kind of Frankensteining when you are, in your work life and what that looks like. I also, during that time, got a degree in architecture, which is always something that was super exciting for me.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that was fun. It's just drawing pretty pictures. And it's funny talking with, home builders and manufacturers and stuff. These architects get such a bad rap, and I understand why. In architecture school, it's basically art school with like a ruler. And you gotta just draw whatever, somebody figure it out.
Whatever is natural. No one has to build it, or you try to buy it, and it's like, this is going to be $80,000 for this front door that this architect drew. No.
And the pattern in the siding's got to match up with the grid pattern in the window. It's like, that seems easy when I got my ruler and pencil.
It's all good when you're thinking it up at the drawing board. Yeah. A lot of ideas are like that for me too.
Yep. It's just ideas in general, but yeah, the architects get a real bad rap. And I take every opportunity to make fun of myself. Then from there, I decided I loved the industry, all of the drama and the nuance and, just everything that goes along with it. I love everything that goes along with it. But, we had good people at ABS, and my path bumped into all of these good people. And so I said, I'm going to try to do something different, with what I'm doing, but I don't want to leave the industry. So I reached out to Ted, who's my boss now, and he took a chance on me, just like everybody else, underqualified for the job that I was going for, but somehow sweet talked him into letting me come aboard. And that was a huge learning experience, coming from a place where I knew everything about everything, and I knew everybody, and I knew exactly if somebody said something, I knew exactly what to do. And it took me about 6 months, and I still struggle with it, that I'm the dumb one in the room. Like both times, even though I'm supposed to be the smart person, I'm the dumb one. And there's so much, it's just opened up this whole other world to me. And when you're talking with customers,
it's like some door nerd speak, and then you're still the expert.
It's funny. I was in the middle of Kansas talking some door nerd stuff, and I saw something out on the shop floor that I had never seen before. And so like right back to it, I thought, this company, or, this door stuff that I've done for almost 20 years now. I was like, I don't know what that is. Like what you have to explain to, and I now right back into the dumb person in the room, which is, it's good. It's how you learn stuff.
Now, as a door nerd, I want to know what it was. So we'll talk about that offline. But it's really cool how first thought of that is, number one, we're the old people that have been in this 20 years now. Like, I would just like to bring that to the forefront, because holy cow, how did that happen? But the other part is that there is all this really cool knowledge that people who are in the building industry, or maybe even people that just, when I was selling building materials as a dealer at my dad's lumberyard, it's a very different conversation when you start being a manufacturer and you're actually using all these parts and components. Because if you call someone and say, hey, I need a 306 panel, fiberglass door, it needs to be a right hand end swing, bronze hinge, bronze sill, you're pretty good, like 4-9 jams,
Yep.
That's it. You get that lingo, you're in. But then when you have to know all the other stuff that goes behind the curtain to make that happen, oh, my mind was blown the first day I walked in to Boise Cascade, and they were like, hey, you got to order the transoms that go on this. And the sash size is, and then we got to figure out what kind of sash it is, and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, because I just always set a 3.0 door with 12-inch transom. Like, that was it, right? I didn't know all that stuff went into it. And there is a whole nother language that comes with this business. And we're talking doors, but you add windows, you add tricks, you add, or composite decking of any kind, you add engineered wood. Like, everything has their own lingo, and it's regional. So the people in Texas call it something different than in Georgia and different in California, I'm sure.
Even location being the same company in different locations, all different
It's
stuff.
crazy. And I don't think people really understand or grasp that until you're in the weeds. And that's where you start to feel like, holy cow, I don't know anything.
Yep. Right.
I've got to learn everything. And it's overwhelming. I mean, I do see that. And that's why I want to come back to that at some point when we talk about the next generation. But my story is very similar to that. So I hear that, and also love the lumber business. You're talking about loving the way it smells. Like, is there anything better in the world than a yard that has cedar on it where you walk through? Like, if I close my eyes and just smell that in my mind, it's home. Like, it feels like I'm home again. And I don't think you can take that out of someone once they start to love that. It is kind of an industry that grabs you.
Yep, it for sure does. And we'll talk about later on, I think, your first day on the job and how that goes. Nobody makes it here on purpose. They get into it on accident.
Their story for most people, right? You're either born into it or you get there in happenstance, like you said. I mean, and I would like to change that perception. I would love to have people that are in high school say, I want to go sell building materials, or I want to work in a lumber yard, or I would like to work at a software company that's doing building material software, whatever it is. I want to go build houses. And this be like a thing that people want to do, like working at Google, which is not so lustrous right now since they've laid off like people. Everything is cylindrical, and we know that. But I want this to be an industry where people in the next generation feel that kind of drive to look into this, at least explore it.
Yep.
Well, your story obviously doesn't end with you getting the Paradigm job, but I want to go back because we are both music people also, and you have some guitars behind you like we talked about. It's always something on the calls that I notice, and I love the fact that you're musical. So tell me about your rock star journey, because you're not just like a cat that kind of hangs out and plays guitar. Like, you've been on tour, you've done the whole deal. So how did that happen, and what was that like?
Yeah, that I learned lots of things that I still use today from doing that. It started off, it was just 4 of us kind of messing around. We'd play at like a coffee shop or, a friend's house or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it turned into something that was more serious. Like you mentioned, we played on Warped Tour, and, when somebody gives you the chance to play, 12 dates or whatever it is on Warped Tour, it means something, right? They're putting themselves on the line, taking a chance on you, and you've told them that you can do this, and so now you got to follow through. So preparation is key. Making sure that all the details are ironed out. The architecture days, favorite architect is Mies van der Rohe, and he says God is in the details.
Yeah. You
have to, even if you don't use it and it doesn't come up, you have to know all the different scenarios. So that helps you get road ready. You travel around a lot. I travel around a lot, and it's natural to me to be in a different spot and sleeping on, an airport, or, grabbing a bite to eat somewhere, or running through an airport and all that.
Hard to be a diva when you travel that much. Like, you gotta have your shit together. Like, just get through whatever. And it does build a certain resiliency, actually. I think travel really, whether you're touring on a music tour or going on a tour trying to sell doors, it doesn't really make a difference. You're just uncomfortable out of your norm situation, and you have to be adaptable.
And you got to figure it out. And if you brush your teeth, like, nailed it.
Hashtag winning.
Yeah.
We always brush our teeth before sales calls, just to be clear to anyone listening to this podcast.
For sure. Yeah, that sounded gross, but I want to see tattooed on my arm, so stuff just comes out.
Oh, so for those listening, what was the name of your band and what genre was it in?
It was 3 weeks yesterday, and we were kind of like pop, punk, rock type of feel. We called ourselves pirate rock because it was fun.
Okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't emo, but it wasn't not, and it wasn't screamo, but it wasn't not. It wasn't like Blink-182, but it had kind of all that mixed up together.
That's awesome. So you did the tour. Today in your life, do you have a lot of music? That's one of my bucket list. I will have more music in my life moments that I write in my journal every day. It also involves a Steinway piano that I can yet to afford, but it will happen. I'm manifesting that. So what does that look like for you today? Because I know you have a family and you're busy with work.
Yeah, I'm sure. We bought this house 4 years ago or so. We always lived in a small place, but my wife, who's smarter than I am, figured out how to get a house with things like an office that I'm standing in and stuff, which allowed me to be able to put these on the wall. So if dinner's cooking or doing something, I got 5 minutes. I can just grab one of these off the wall. I have my effects pedal board. Some of it is right here below me, as well as some keyboard things that you can't see. And then upstairs on my nightstand, I have a recording setup. So it's got an iPad and a digital interface and some things, and I can jot down ideas and stuff. And that happens probably every night.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
We're gonna do something together musically. I want to do that. We have to make this happen because I think it's really cool. I'm not sure what happens when a pop opera person meets a pyro punk rock person, but we're gonna see what happens. It's gonna be really interesting.
Should be fun.
We'll read a really great song about doors.
I can only imagine it would sound like Saturday morning cartoons with rock and opera mixed together.
Hey, Evanescence does one song, La Carosa, that starts with an opera and Mozart and then it goes to Evanescence. So it can definitely be done.
Yep.
I love it. Well, let's get back to the doors and the paradigm and all the things that we're doing. And I know you and I talk a lot about this. Tech is not something that the building industry has been known for historically. Fax machines are still alive and well in some of our building materials locations that I've seen. And there's a lot of, I guess, hesitancy to adapt to tech. Also, there's so many different acquisitions going on and all these things are happening that people are mixing their ERPs they're using different processes and they're trying to come together with best practices. You're doing a lot of helping people figure that out with Paradigm. And I want you to talk a little bit about how you're really being a bridge between manufacturers and dealers and then their end users who are buying these products in the millwork space. So windows, doors, that's really where you guys bread and butter. Talk a little bit about Paradigm, what you do, exciting things y'all have going.
Yeah, we so at Paradigm, I used to say that when somebody asked me what I did, I would say I sell software. And there's an older gentleman named Rick Cross, call him Old Man Rick, here, and he said,
Cross, we love you. Well, I can't speak for John.
Yeah, let's not get too excited. He says, no, we solve challenges, and it's for the building products industry. So there's plenty of challenges and things that the industry is faced with, and our software is designed to solve or at least help in the right direction with those things. And everything's built off of our customers' success, and it's really exciting to see somebody roll something out and actually see success or accomplish. They have this vision, and it might take 5 years to get that fully realized. But seeing that, hey, I reduced my contract errors almost completely. Right? They were 99%. Now they're 3% contract errors. Or all of my orders, my fax machine's unplugged. That's a huge milestone. And
hallelujah, praise the Lord.
Our NPS score, which means that people love us, went up to it's up at 55, which is unheard of in this industry. But
that's awesome.
just solve challenges. We rarely go in and just like show a bunch of buttons and say like, yeah, if you click here and you click here and you click here, it's really like, what are you trying to accomplish? And then we have this like huge tool belt that we can use to help you get there.
Yeah, and there are, when you say huge tool belt, there are so many ways to kind of get to the end road there, because everyone's businesses are different. And I think that's one thing I've seen a lot. I came from a dealer background of my dad's. It was a very small one location lumberyard. I worked with a very large distributor that was growing their millwork business for over 10 years, helping them scale and grow that business. And software was a problem there. It was a problem at my dad's lumberyard. It was a problem in other places that were my customers. Everyone's trying to solve the same issues, but it's all very different based on where you are and who you're serving as your customer and your end user. And that looks different based on the solution that Paradigm can provide. So you guys are really bespoke and helping people figure out what works for them, which I love. It is something that I think will continue to be more and more important as millennials and Gen Z come into the industry, because they are not going to use the fax machine that is in the corner. They will not know what it is. So just to be clear, like, software is king. We grew up on software. We grew up with a computer. I played Oregon Trail and died of dysentery when I was in second grade. It was my favorite part of school. I loved it. We got to go one day a week for like 1 hour, and I cherished every moment.
Yep.
And
well, even though you don't need it.
100%. Definitely have to have it in the wagon. But Gen Z is even different. Like, they've grown up with phones, with the internet and all these technologies is right there in their fingertips for their whole life. They will demand this. So how does your background with knowing lumberyards, knowing doors and millwork, knowing the distribution space, how does that feed into helping with that customer bridge you're providing, and also the development of like what really does matter to these contractors, these customers in Paradigm building their next things?
Yeah, I think just one few highlights that we hear all the time is like configurable e-commerce, and you and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
Taking the one, I have my dealer channel over here, my retail channel over here. How do I get that closer to a dumb homeowner like myself, right? So I can go in there and have all the education that I want, and then, configure the products and maybe even buy them, right there. The data and like deep analytics, and, that even gets into some of the AR or like AI and virtual reality stuff. Right. Getting into some of that and be able to visualize products on the home, but they also be able to visualize what your business is actually doing, using data and deep analytics, and then, making decisions that are based off of facts rather than, gut feeling. The gut feeling's part of it that'll never go away, but
yeah.
And I think the last one, it's kind of two different things, but like having one system that's up in the cloud, which makes it fast and all that fun stuff, but being able to then integrate that to other systems, when we haven't adopted a lot of technology as far as the industry is concerned. And so being able to be open enough to plug in multiple different ways to multiple different systems where it needs to be plugged into. That could be a Caval machine that's got an awesome API, and like, hey, I click order on the button, and like, I tell the machine what to do. That's life-changing for some of these door shops that are out there. And
shout out to Nate Caval and his team to like, what they do with those machines is it's crazy. Like, I love those machines. They're amazing. And it's only getting better. Like, every year they come out, and there's other manufacturers that are doing good stuff too of machinery, but that, to be able to talk to that, think about the human error that's taking out. I always think about that, because we had a lot of people working in a door shop in one location, like, 100 people in one location, 200 people in one location. That's a lot of people that could do the wrong thing or make the wrong choice on a button, and not that it can never be wrong with machines, but the more you can automate things, and that's true in everything from operations to sales to marketing, the more we can automate and systematize things, the less human error, and also the less humans you have to have, because we can't find people to do this stuff.
Yep.
It's not like people are lining up to take these jobs to build doors. There are people, and that's awesome. They're great teams, but we always needed more people. Almost at every single location that I've seen in the U.S., every place you look has a listing for door shop material handler, door shop builder, door shop, whatever it is, salesperson, whatever the job is, we will have to keep automating. So with Paradigm, being able to talk to the machines and then talk to the ERPs, I mean, it's pretty awesome. I think it's probably a 50% reduction on labor, just not having to do the quote and then the sales entry twice.
Yep.
Just doing that one thing, I think it saves 50% of your time.
And you see, you mentioned all the job listings, and it's, everybody's project list, everyone that we talk to, this project's competing against these 5 projects over here, and which one goes first. And it's not necessarily that we're not getting rid of anybody, but you can take that 50% extra labor and, now we can like implement these changes out on the shop floor. We can implement this on our sales team. Hey, let's grab a CRM and then plug that in. And you can do all of these things because now you have the efficiencies to help that out.
Yeah. Foresee a future where the like elimination of jobs, it's just that the jobs get higher quality for people to move up or to, do different things, like you said, to expand.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that, part of that also is there's an aging workforce. We've talked to plenty of people where, I'll just throw, Kevin, for example, has like done, he's done the scheduling at this company for 30 years and he's seen it evolve and grow. And if he hasn't had a day off in 10 years or whatever it is, or when I was out in Kansas, there was a lady, and if she's not there, they don't make doors, and they kind of plan things around her. And so implementing some of those seasoned veterans with digital tools, and so let them put that tribal knowledge into a machine, so when it's time for them to move on and live in Cabo or wherever they're going to live, you don't lose that knowledge. And then, like you said, things still flow out on the shop floor. You're still super efficient, and kind of building some of that into there.
Yeah, and that's another problem that Ben and I are trying to solve with our business construct you with our training is, how do you train the next generation with 30 years of knowledge from someone's head that, I mean, it's impossible to do it fully, but the good training programs can at least get people in the door to understand what is an interior door, what's the difference between hollow core, solid core, MDF, style and rail, all these little weird nuances, like why is an engine 3/4 door always an exterior? Why are there engine 3/4 and engine 3/8 options in interior? I mean, I'm getting into the weeds because that's like literally top stuff. That's not in the weeds. That's
right.
Day one, you would need to know that to sell doors. So how do we educate these people that come out of high school or come out of college and have only walked through a door before? They don't know anything about what they're looking at. We're trying to solve that with education that they like with technology, which is a giant undertaking. But we have to start somewhere, right? You got to start with the basics and then hopefully they catch on. But to capture this knowledge of these people that have been on the floor building doors or shipping or staging, scheduling for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the statistic is 1 in 4 people in our industry are going to be retiring in the next 5 years.
Oh, wow. I have heard that. That's crazy.
Yeah. And that's everywhere, like in all construction, but that's giant. And that's only the next, 4 or 5 years. What happens in 10 years? Probably most of those people we're talking about will be retired. And or they'll be working very small hours to just keep, we have to find a solution. And my thought is that your competitive edge is your people and it's your technology. Those are the 2 things I believe in this business are true competitive edges. If we can find the technology to train the people that are different types of people, millennials and Gen Z, to be the next gen, we'll solve the problem. And whoever does that fastest and most efficiently will win the game.
Yep. Yeah, that's 100% the case. I love my favorite question as of late, and I asked you this at our annual conference. In 10 years or 5 years, how is a window or door going to be sold?
Yeah.
And most people they say something, it's always going to be X, but then they kind of like sit back and think about it, and it's exactly what you talked about. It's not the way we're doing it now. I don't know exactly what it is, but it for sure isn't what we're doing.
I mean, it can't not be online. It doesn't. Now, maybe some like super, super, super custom thing is not, but it's just like every other thing that's more of a commodity now is being sold online. Someone will figure out how to do that. It will be an Amazon type model It may be somebody else, a dealer or somebody of these distributors selling online, but someone will be doing it. And then the people who refuse to adapt and get online, they will be shut down like Blockbuster and Kodak because they refuse to adapt. You know,
we had a couple customers that are getting close with some e-commerce stuff, and it's so exciting to work on stuff like that, you know, because you see them, like I mentioned earlier, they have this vision and they come to you with it and they say, I want to do X. And you're like, we can help you do that. And they're getting really close, and then you can tell, you just know it's going to be successful, right? You've done all the planning and everything. We just need to get it done. And we have a couple customers that are getting really close, and I can't wait to see it work, because just like you said, it has to. And it's not because we're so great. It's not, you know, anything like that. It's because when it's a need in the market, and
the market is telling us what it wants. The consumer is asking for what it wants. Now, it may not be like every single person in the world is saying, I want to buy doors online. Like, no one's plain to say that yet. But at the end of the day, if you look at the trends for every other product, it is online.
Yep.
You know, and it will be, and that's the same thing I feel like with social media. I talk a lot about personal branding. If all the other industries have been successful with that, our industry will eventually become that. It may take an extra 5-10 years, but it will happen. It always does. It's just like the internet. I mean, I remember writing up tickets at my dad's lumberyard by hand on a 3-ply carbon copy mailer machine. And one day we got a computer with Triad, is what it was called, ERP at the time, and it changed my whole life. And I remember when I was 8 learning the 2408 PC SKU for HUDs. And like, that's the first SKU I ever learned. I still remember it. And that changed our whole business in one day. So that's the same thing with this. It'll happen. And we talk a lot about e-com. You know, there are limits to what I feel like consumers should have to know to be able to buy doors. But the dealers already know this stuff. So it may still be through a dealer that this is happening, but it's going to be like, hey, I like this door. I like the way it looks. Here's my price range. And then we ask you a few questions about, hey, do you have 2x4 walls or 2x6 walls? Do you like this color seal or this color seal? They don't have to know what a seal is to know if they like silver or bronze. Like, it's pretty simple, right? Pick the things, move on. Just like buying a car. Do you know every little inner working about the engine, or do you want to know what color it is and what the interior looks like? I mean, it's, if you want to know all that other stuff,
was going to be slick. You know how to hear.
Like, and are there safety features? And that's the stuff people care about. And it's the same thing with, I think, doors or any other building material product for that matter. It will come. So for those of you who are like, this girl's crazy, she probably is, but not because of this thought. It's not because of e-com. And it's the same thing with marketing. Like I said, it's coming. So if you're sitting at your lumberyard or in your distribution location thinking, I have a lot of great relationships with contractors or with builders or with dealers, I don't need social media, I don't need marketing, I don't need this. Millennials and Gen Z are coming for you, boo. Like, they're coming, and they will demand it. So you better start thinking about it now so you can be ahead of the curve. You want to be tip of the spear on this stuff. You got to. At least test it. You don't have to spend $17 million on social media ads. Just try it. Just post it on the phone. Like, what's the worst thing?
It's funny because you talked about where the consumer stops and like the dealer picks up, and where the dealer stops and the distributor picks up. You know, if you think about two-step distribution, you're really having somebody else, you're giving them all the tools and letting the dealer place all the orders. And you just kind of sit next to the cash register and make sure it doesn't. And you can do that with a homeowner, you know, getting closer and closer to the actual builder or the homeowner or the contractor that's buying and touching the door when it gets there, or the window or whatever. And then giving them, you know, wrapping that in education. Hey, I told you I was a homeowner. Here's some more education on top of all of this stuff. So now I'm educated enough to order this thing, but I might not install it. I might still go to my, you know, local hardware store and get it installed. But putting the power in the hands closer to that end user, whoever that might be, and giving them an experience that they want or need, or, you know, whatever it is.
And some homeowners are never going to do that. They're always going to call a contractor or building supply, and that's fine, because there's some builders that I remember I had a guy that bought like doors all the time from us at my dad's lumberyard. I mean, every day. And every single time he bought a door, he would say, "Hey, Steph, what's the roof opening on this 3068 in-swing door?" And I'd say, "Hey, Steve, it's 38.5 by 82.5. The same thing it was yesterday when you asked me, and 42 times before that." Because he wasn't going to learn it and he didn't care. And some people are always going to be that. And that's where the value add comes in. But we've talked a lot about what is the value in 10 years of two-step distribution. And I think where it comes in is these people that are winning on like the manufacturing side that have the real value add components, the trusses, the engineered wood, the doors, the windows, things that are being manufactured, that's the value. So for me, when I look at like, where can we win in distribution in two-step, that's it. And I think most good distributors have figured that out. And they're going all in on these things because they see what's coming. They see the writing on the wall. And that's the thing is like, some of these building material dealers now are bigger than a lot of the distributors are. It's not a game of volume anymore for them. It's got to be, how do we add value? And you can do that by training. You can do that by technology. You can do that by your people, service. That there's still ways to win. It's just different than it was winning last year or 10 years ago.
Yep. Yeah, and the principles are still there. You mentioned the partnership and relationships and things. That'll never go away. That's this whole thing, from the concrete up to what makes the building industry like tick is those relationships. Mm-hmm. So, and the people that are going to be successful keep that around, and then augment, just like you said, augment the process.
Just don't be scared of the tech that it's going to take that away, because it's not. It's just the people that use technology with the relationships, with the service, with the great products, and they partner it with that technology, they'll be better than the people that don't.
Yep.
It's like people say, "Oh, AI is going to take all these jobs." Tell me how, where? They're going to take jobs that no one wants to do anyway. It's going to take jobs away that we can't find people to hire for the amount that they should be paid for those jobs. People that use AI will be more competitive, more hireable, more promotable, and stronger candidates than people who choose not to use AI. That will be where you lose your job over it, is somebody that partners with AI to be better. Because you can be an expert at anything with ChatGPT. Like, now, still there's some bullcrap on ChatGPT. So if you're listening to this, always tell it to cite the sources, because it'll make stuff up if you don't know anything about AI. It will find an answer. It will not be true.
And proofread the emails you have it do.
Yeah, please use it with caution, but use it, because it is here. It's coming. I'm doing a keynote next week on it to an industry group. AI is a big part of how we get these small tasks that a human doesn't have to do to get done. And I think that's powerful. So
my favorite question, I was just with one of our customers and I asked the owner of that company that my favorite question, where's it going to be in 10 years?
Yeah.
And he could not stop thinking about it. And when he got back to his office, he asked ChatGPT the same question a few different ways. And it spit out, the digitalization and automation. I got the list in front of me. Prefabricated and modular solutions, integrated smart features, customization, personalization, the product stuff. It's got to be energy efficient, sustainable, advanced material technology. And it was like, that nailed it. I didn't have to sit and think. This at least gives me something to build on.
Yeah.
And then go from there. I don't want to type out an email. I'm just going to tell AI, hey, type out an email, make it sound nice, don't be too direct, and then you proofread it and send it. Now you have more time to do other stuff.
The stuff that only you can do. Yeah. How can you utilize your amazing human brain for the things that only the amazing human brain can do? That's how people should look at AI, instead of as a competition, as oh my gosh, they're going to take over the world. Now look, AI may take over the world one day, and I want to be on the record for saying that it could happen, but hopefully we have parameters in place to not do that. But at the end of the day, it's a tool that people are using. If you choose not to use it, you're going to get left behind, just like if you choose to keep your fax machine and not get on an internet system 20 years ago. I
like that. The things only you can do.
Mm-hmm. Things only your human brain can do. Because there's so many little tasks that, we have a tool coming out where we can automate certain things like Google reviews. Okay, well, every time that you invoice a customer, we can automate to give you an email to that customer to say, hey, would you like to give me a Google review? Here's the exact link. You click one thing and then you go review it. then AI can actually go in and you can teach your AI what you want it to say, and it can actually respond to the review. Like, oh, thank you so much for your compliment on John. He is one of our, amazing sales leaders, and we're so grateful to have him. We're amazed that the software is doing what it's doing for you. Please let us know if we can support you in any way. Guess what? A human didn't have to do that. And Google prioritizes reviews that have a reply to the review. So you instantly get better reviews because of that prioritization. You never touch it. Because who has time to go reply to 400 reviews if you got 400 in a week? That's a lot of time, right? Yep. So at the end of the day, I think there's just some easy little check boxes we can take off the list that you don't have to mess with.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's talk about young talent. So we're both young. I'm going to give us that compliment. It's probably not true anymore.
That's all right. 21 for me.
We used to always be the youngest ones in the room, and I was like so proud of that. And now there's like 15 people that raise their hand that are younger than me. And I'm like, this is like, holy cow. But we do have a lot of young talent that we're trying to attract into this industry. It's not a super sexy business. Like we talked about, it's very nuanced. There's a lot of technical stuff that you probably wouldn't know unless you were already in the business. It's not like Instagram where you probably have seen it your whole life. What would you say to someone who wants to get into either the lumber business, the technical side of the business, millwork, or even selling software for the industry that wants to get in? They're not sure where to start. Why would you say that people in young roles would want to come into this business and stay?
I got a lot of good thoughts on that. Like we talked about earlier, right? You almost never get here on purpose.
Yeah.
In so many stories you talk about, oh yeah, I needed a job and I got it, and I've been here for 25 years, and they're like running the company, like, general manager type person. But pay attention to the nuance and drama, and the beauty of the industry. Think about the end result. People moving into their new home that they're so excited about, or they're actually reducing energy bills and the things like that. And then the drama of the industry is fun, and new products and trends and things. You're a part of the biggest industry in the country, right? The building industry drives the whole thing. And then think about the things that you can take from this. If when the building industry is not the end goal for you, think about what you can take, right? There's disruptive ideas that come out all the time, and like understand like how when they brought that idea in, they realized the problem, and then they disrupted the industry, because it happens in this industry, quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so figuring out some of that, and then if you're a company trying to attract, younger talent, don't necessarily say like, hey, come here and stay here in the building industry.
For life.
Maybe play yourself as a stepping stone. There's so much stuff that you can learn here, and the relationship building things that are so important and lacking in other industries and things. You can learn so much about that, but really talk about you're impacting lives and changing things. You actually have an impact on the nation and things.
Yeah.
Along that line, and then paid internships. That's a way to get somebody in, that will pick your opportunity over another one.
Sure.
You're paying, it might be, half of what they should make, but that getting paid to do something for school, that might be a way to, flag something for it. But, hey, if you want to be an architecture, or an architect, come work for us, and, we'll show you how to do a lumber takeoff, and how a home's actually built, and doing different things like that, and just telling people that you can learn a ton here. We know you won't be here forever, but like, come over here. It's a great company. We're we're the biggest employer in the town sometimes.
Yeah.
You come work for us, and you can move on to something else. But we have these tools to teach you.
There's also a lot of money to be made in this business. Like, that's not to be understated. There are people making millions of dollars a year doing things in construction all the time. Not me and you, but it's somebody. I know a few of them. But the thing is, like, you can make a lot of money and make a great living working for a company that's doing amazing things. You're helping people, like you said, and you're making a wonderful living for your family. And Really good point. You don't have to have a college degree for a lot of these jobs.
Yep.
You don't have to get student loan. You don't have to do any of that. You can come straight out of high school, day 2 after graduation, and go do a lot of these jobs, and they will train you. Some places have training programs.
Yep.
I think we've already talked about this a little bit, but for employers to draw young talent, if you don't have any sort of training program or a career path trajectory that's very clear, millennials and Gen Z are going to be out. They might come when they have to, but they will not stay because they prioritize all the studies show, like everything that Gallup's done, SHRM, all these different organizations that study like talent and millennials and Gen Z and what's happening with them. They care about work-life balance. They care about their dogs. I care a lot about my dog, just to be clear. They care about having homes with like yards for their animals, and they're doing gardening. They're doing all this thing that other generations didn't do. And they care about their development.
Yep.
They want to be poured into, and they want to be developed strategically. Not like, well, we could get you a mentor and you'll probably maybe in 20 years be doing X, Y, and Z. No, they want to be like, hey, first 6 months of the job, this is what it looks like, and here's how we're going to develop you. Second wave, if you go into ops or you go into sales, this is what it looks like. And there are some companies out there that do a really great job at development. There are some that have zero. So again, competitive edge, you want top tier talent from schools, colleges, young people, or even millennials that have already been in the workforce for 10, 15 years. That's how you get them. Bring them in, show them how they can advance, and then do what you say you're going to do on the training. And they will probably stay, actually, a lot of times. I mean, they want to be at a place where they're appreciated and they're trained and they're developed.
Yeah. And the appreciation, I think that comes naturally in this industry. If you help somebody do something, they're appreciative, right? So, the new person shows up and they do something right. Somebody's going to tell them, yeah, you did something great today. Good work on that. And that positive feedback is something that I've got throughout the years. And it's funny because it comes from an industry that seems so gristled and, not like that, but it really is underneath, all the lumber and concrete and doors and things. It's touchy-feely and squishy. But
yeah, I think there is a lot of really, really great people in this industry. I always say salt of the earth type people that most of them care about other people that they're working around.
Yep.
And just really good people to hang out with, like just to be able to come to work with and say, like, these are my teammates every day.
Yeah, the teammates is huge. When it's really, really rare that you walk into an organization and it doesn't feel like a family that's been together forever.
Yeah.
Or a band that's traveled around and like been through the ringer, right? Most people went through the recession, they went through COVID, and they're just like, yep, we're happier together because of all that kind of stuff.
It's hard to leave a place when you feel that kind of affection for some of your coworkers. Even it's not all of them, but some, even if you have another opportunity or you want to go do something else, like you kind of long for that camaraderie. It's hard to replicate that when you've been through so much together. So I do think people stay sometimes because of that. If you build that culture, I mean, it's hard to deny that when you walk into a place, and you can see that in a lot of these businesses that, like you said, have people 20, 30 years, and then even younger people that have been there since they're 18 and now they're 35. I mean, I see a lot of
ABS for the majority, a good majority of my life. I'm 41 and I was there for 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time.
Chunk of my life.
And the invaluable lessons, like I know for me, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't have spent the last time doing what I was doing at my old job for 10 years. And then time before that with my dad. So we built on our successes, and the challenges may be different, but just like you said with your band, I believe that everything in life can teach you something for your next step in life. It may be a failure that teaches you, it may be a win that teaches you, and probably a combination of both. But you learned kind of planning and strategic, thoughts on how to line up a tour for a band. Now you're use that in your sales career and your travels and all these things. You'll use whatever you're learning today and whatever you do next. So It's really cool how that happens. And I think for young people, if someone is listening to this, don't underestimate the job now that you don't feel like is where you want to be, or exactly what you're doing is like not your end goal. Because number one, it's a sprint for your first part of your career. You want to get a lot of under your belt experience on that, but it's really a marathon. Then you've got to look at it that way. I sometimes got very impatient. I'm not a patient person. And I would like to have said to myself, like, slow down, cowgirl. Like, you're going to get there. You just got to give it some time. And I eventually did, but I spent a lot of time thinking about things that didn't matter because I was just trying to rush things so much. So give it time. Gen Z, especially, I think deals with that, wanting to like be in a really high position the first day of the job. That's not realistic.
You would fail also.
Exactly. Because you don't know what you need to know, and you have no idea what you don't know, which is the scariest part.
And you don't have the respect either of the people around you. You know, not to say that young people can't be like leaders of companies. We have customers where the second or third generation, you know, in their late 20s are running the organization, and it's, you know, and they're super successful. But just like you, they like grew up when they were 3 years old. They were playing tag, you know, out on the shop floor, and they understand how it works. They've seen their parents or grandparents or somebody, you know, go through the ringer of, you know, how important it is. Because like I said, a lot of our customers are in these small towns. They're the biggest employer there, and that weighs on you, right? That has to be part of every decision you make. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question. I have loved our conversation today. You're always, we have so much fun together. It's usually over a beer at a show or something. So this is cool to have a different medium.
Yeah.
This podcast is called The Grit Blueprint. So I want to ask you, you know, you've been through a lot, you've seen a lot, you understand this industry. What does the word grit actually mean to you, whether it's in work or in your personal life? And how is it kind of played into who you are as a person today and who you want to be in your life as you continue?
That is a good question. I think for me, there's not really, you know, that work-life balance. You know, I fall into that group. You know, I flow in from one to the next. So, kind of my personal life and professional life, you know, kind of meet in the middle. You know, but one of the things that I think is great is doing things that are scary, like going on a podcast, like doing that for the first time. You know, my wife told me earlier, she said, you're excited for this, aren't you? And I'm like, I'm overwhelmed and like nervous and very excited to do it. You know, doing something like that is good. Getting yourself out there, and it builds up your grit and determination and your resilience, and, you know, things and failures and things will bounce off of you a lot more the more that you do that.
Yeah.
And there's a music quote from a group called Lights, and it says, you don't have to feel safe to feel unafraid. So, you know, it always gets me. Such a good line and so true.
Yeah.
The next one for me is showing up, right? Whether that's being one parent and showing up to activities, picking your kids up from school, sitting down on the floor and playing Legos with them, or that's, you know, showing up for work on time. I learned that when I was 19 the hard way. You know, or meetings that you don't want to have, you know, just always show up. And part of that is, you know, doing what's right when it's time to do it, right? And that could be, you walk through with you know, the owner of a company, and they're walking through and they see, you know, a garbage label on the floor. They'll pick it up and they'll throw it in the garbage. You know, just like at home, you walk through and you see a toy on the floor, you put it where it goes.
Yeah.
And doing that repeatedly, because if you do that with the small stuff, you're going to do that with the hard stuff. And so, you know, doing what's right when it's supposed to be done is important.
How you do anything is how you do everything is one of my favorite quotes.
That's a good one.
Because, I mean, it really is true. And I think when you show that to your people as a leader, also, like that person that picked up that tag that's on the garbage floor, puts it in the garbage, someone else saw that person do that. So now they know that's what they should do. Your kids are seeing you pick up toys eventually at some point in their life. Maybe not today. They'll know that they should pick up the toys too. But how you do anything is how you do everything. I say that a lot because it's so true.
Yeah. 2 or 3 more things. When to shut up. When to speak up is also important, but like know when to shut up, right? When have you said enough? When is it not the time to say something? Yeah, that helps with relationships. It helps with not looking dumb, which I do a lot. That's all right. But be okay with being wrong. You know, we do sales trainings twice a year, you know, as well as some other stuff. We all get together and do sales trainings. And I know everybody gets so annoyed with, I talk the entire time. I answer every question. I'm sitting in the front, but that's the only way that I learn. I throw myself out there and I give wrong answers all day long, get told why it was wrong. And that's how I learn. And then I got a coworker that's been here forever. His name's Brant Olson. And I tried to emulate what that guy did for forever. He's like God's gift to Paradigm. I swear. He's done everything. He's been everywhere. He's super smart. His brain works in a way that mine doesn't. And I tried to emulate that, and it didn't work. And so I took bits of him that I liked. I took bits of, Rick that we both know, and Ted, and then people across the organization, as well as all my previous experience. I talked about Old Man Ray, and everybody else. But Frankenstein that together and build your like ideal self. Take the bits that actually work for you. Okay. Brant told me, this is where Brant comes in. I got away from that. Brant told me, it's about 1.5 years into it. And I go, dude, I had, 5 or 6 calls and like long demos with people, and I didn't mess them up, but they didn't feel great. And he goes, you just got to trust yourself. And, that's totally Brant. He says like 4 words, and it's everything you needed to hear. Does it with our customers.
I'm Yoda, right?
Oh, it's so annoying because I'll talk for 45 minutes and he's like, yeah, just trust yourself. Damn it. Right. That's the biggest thing, like knowing, all of the other stuff that I said, doing things that are scary, showing up, doing what's right. Just want to trust yourself that you know how to do this. You just need to figure out, maybe, the preparation. That's where the preparation comes in. But at the end of the day, you know how to do it, and trust yourself. So when you jump off that cliff, there's something there with a tree branch to grab onto, or at least it's, it's not cactuses like you see in the commercials when you all the way down.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point to close with. Is really that ending of when you have to embrace yourself and your own strengths and your abilities the way that you do it. Stop trying to like fit into someone else's reality and do it like they do it, because you're just going to be a crappier version of them instead of being the best version of you, which is always going to be a culmination of like everything you've learned and taking, like you said, bits and pieces of each person. But no one is going to do it like I will. And same thing with you. And once you embrace that, that's why I love the strengths development stuff so much, is once you know what your strengths are, and then you lean into that and try to hone those and really make them superpowers, and you're trying to do it the way you should do it for your strengths. That's like hockey stick growth. Exponential growth can happen then, because you've stopped trying to fit into a mold that you are not going to fit into. No matter how you move and try and contort, it's not going to happen. So
and you understand where you need to put in the work, so you can, because you have to put in the work to like real part of you. But once you understand what that is and what path you're going down, then you can focus all, whether it's reading books or watching videos, getting another degree, whatever it is. Once you figure that out, now I'm on that path, and that's what's going to shoot you up.
I love that. Well, that's such a good way to close, because I think that's the essence of it's grit, but it's grit your style, and that's the thing, is that you can't have anyone else's path, and you shouldn't want to, because it wouldn't be authentic to you anyway. So you're a rock star. We already knew that. I should probably make you play and sing a song, but I'm not going to. But maybe next time we'll just do like a musical episode of the podcast, which would be really interesting. I saw a Family Guy episode where like they sang the whole thing, and he had a theme song as he was walking. And I really thought like, try that in real life. It'd be pretty fun.
It'd be more like the other Family Guy episode where they Peter and Lois think they're singing really well, but they're not. Because
it would only be fun for us. Well, 30 seconds into the podcast, I'm never listening to this again. Well, thank you so much, John. I'm really appreciative of your friendship and all the knowledge that we've shared together. I can't wait to keep building amazing technology and doing great things and changing the millwork world, hopefully, together. So I love that. You're awesome. And for the listeners out there, we will hear from you on the next Grit Blueprint podcast. Thank you.
Thanks.